Hello, my name's Layla and I'm a developer. In this video, I'm going to show you some different collections that are available in .NET and C#. In a previous video, we looked at arrays, and they're just one type of collection available. In this video, we're going to look at dictionaries and lists, and they're something that you'll use a lot more frequently in C# than you will an array. They're more flexible because they're not immutable in the same way that an array is. Now, if you've watched the array video, you'll know that arrays are fixed size from the start, but lists and dictionaries and other types of IEnumerable, remember that's like the umbrella for all collections, are expandable and shrinkable. So let's go and take a look at some different collections. Let's head over to code. This was our basic code for our array, and we're going to adapt it to have a list. So to make this a list, we're going to go list, and this is using something called a generic, and that means we can have a list of type whatever is inside that list. So that's what the angle brackets are. Now our list in this case happens to be strings, so we're going to put a string in here. Now this is still not happy because we need to go new, and there's a few ways we can do that, like that, or in this case, because we have declared the type on the left hand side of the statement, we can lose that there. And this goes for any type that you are creating. The other way that we could do it is, as we learned in the array video, is by using var. Whatever makes you feel happiest and makes it more readable for you. I'm quite liking this new way that we have, which is like that. So on the left hand side, I say what type of variable this is, and then I new it up with the new keyword, open close parentheses, and then whatever is in it. We've now got our cheesy list. You can see that was really similar to the array, but it's got some different things going on with it. So let's go down here. Instead of length, we count the number of items in our list. And again, down here, we're going to go count. And now our code should work more or less the same way. Let's try it. And as you can see, it has worked exactly the same way. But this is so much more flexible than our array code. Let's have a look at how we can add a new item to our list. After we have asked them to choose their favorite from the list, let's ask them to add a cheese to the list. So we're going to get a console.readline. This time it's going to be new cheese. And now we can go and say cheeses.add. So we have this new keyword add, and we're going to add new cheese. Now we can just go and print the cheeses out again. Let's do that. And let's see how that looks. All right, so I'm going to choose pineapple. Pineapple's my favorite. Okay, let's add Rockfoot. And you can see it's added that to it. Now the key thing when you are adding something to a list, when you compare it to adding something to an array, is it's not creating a new list. And that's because we can change the length of our list. And that's all to do with how memory is allocated differently between arrays and lists. But don't worry about that now. Just know that you can easily add and remove items from lists. So what else can we do with a list? Well, the first thing I think we'll do is we'll tidy up some of this code repetition. General rule of programming is anything that you repeat, you should put into a method so it's reusable. And we have something repeated here. So what I'm going to do is show you how you can create a file that has a collection of methods that you can use in your application. We've seen how we can have a class in a file. We're going to create a class that, rather than being an object, is kind of like a service that we can use. And that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call this one cheese service. It's going to do all these things that we want our application to do. Just like a class, it's going to be a public class cheese service. But this time we're going to put some of our methods in. So if we go look at our program, we do this printing of our cheese quite often. So let's grab this out and take it into our service. So we're going to ask our method to print the list, and it's not going to return anything. If we drop our code in, you can see it has some errors. So it's because it doesn't know what this cheese list is, because that's in our program. So I think we should move this cheese list out of here and into our cheese service, and then we can ask our cheese service for our list of cheeses. So I'm going to grab this line, and we're going to go into our cheese service, and we're going to create some values up here that we can get. Now, we've seen public a lot, but we're going to try writing a private value. That means it's only accessible to methods and code that's inside this class. It's scoped to this class. So that's an important thing that you need to do. Now, this is going to be private, and this is going to be a list of type string, and we're going to call this cheese list. And we're going to new it up here. Now, this is good practice because lists always need to be newed up. If you haven't newed a list up, it's not there available to add stuff to. So it's good practice just to always new it up. And you may be wondering about this underscore. That's a general convention for you to know that something with an underscore is a private variable. So it's really good just to put an underscore under things that have this private accessor at the start. So now we have our cheese list. We are going to go in here and put cheese.count, cheese.index. That's great, but we don't have any cheeses in our list. So if you remember in our array video, we did a constructor. In fact, we can see it here. When we create a new instance of cheese, we do it with these values. So we can do a constructor in our service as well. So let's do that. So it's CTOR for constructor, and then the tab button brings it up. Now I'm just going to delete the parameters there, and I'm actually going to paste in the cheese list that we had up here. So let's cut that and bring it in here. And what I'm actually going to do is set this value like so. So we've now got cheese list, and I prefer my private fields to be at the top, then my constructor, then my methods. So that's the way I like it laid out. You can see as soon as we create an instance of cheese service, it's going to populate the list. Now in this case, I do new up the list, so we don't need to new it up here. So I'm going to take that out because we have this constructor. Now we know that we'll have this list. And to print our list, we'll call that here. Let's new up our cheese service so we have it available in our program. Now we're going to go var, because we are going to new it. We'll know what it is. Cheese service is equal to a new cheese service. Now this will have that populated list for us. And one of the first things we do is get a count. Well, we don't have access to that list because it's private. So let's get something that returns that list. So public, and this is going to return a list of string because it's going to return this list, get cheeses, and to do that, we can simply return our populated cheese list. Now our method getCheeses knows about our cheese list because it's in the same class, and this is a way of getting the value of private properties outside to different code. Why would we want to do that? Well, I don't actually want any other code to be able to create this cheese list or change this cheese list. I want it protected, and that's what we're doing. The program file can't do anything with that cheese list apart from what the cheese service says it can. So it's a really good way of working with code. Okay, so let's get that cheese list. So we have our cheese service. And we're going to get the count in here. So I'm going to go cheese service dot get cheeses. Then we need our open close parentheses, and then we can go dot count there. So we've got our list and we've added that. Okay, so we have our cheese service, and now we want to print our cheeses. So cheese service dot print list. So that was what we had in here. So that now is going to print our list. And then we can repeat that line down here because you can see that we repeated ourselves. That's what we were trying to fix. But we have this add. So we probably need a method to update our cheese list. So let's go and do that. We can have a public void this time and add cheese. This is going to take a cheese in, so we need to accept string cheese, and then we go cheese list dot add, just as we did before, and we're going to add that cheese. You can see that's all happy, and then instead of doing it here, we go cheese service dot add cheese, and we pass in our new cheese. So this is a really nice way of tidying up your code, and you'll find it's a lot easier to read when you start separating out chunks of your code into different files. But you can do that with any code, not just collections and lists. But I thought we'd tidy up our code and learn a little bit about refactoring our code whilst we were learning about collections, because that's what we just did. We refactored our code into a cheese service, which makes it much more readable and maintainable, which is the key to happy coding. Okay, so a list is one type of collection. We can have it be of strings, ints, objects, whatever you like. It could be a list of arrays if you wanted. Can it be a list of arrays? It certainly can. So put that in. Why would you use an array over a list? Well, generally arrays are faster, and that's because of the way they are stored in memory. You don't need to worry about that right now, but that's why you would use it. But lists are easier to work with, so it really depends what type of code you are writing. We'll use lists a lot because the speed isn't really a concern of ours right now. But one thing that is speedy and useful and flexible is a dictionary, and that is yet another type of collection. So let's have a look at one of those. Now, in our cheese service, we don't really need a dictionary, but I'm going to create one just to show you. But as I say, we don't really need it. To show our dictionary, I'm actually going to create a list of cheeses rather than a list of string. I think it will make it clearer. So I'm also going to update our cheese class to have an ID. So let's go prop int ID. You should be getting used to that shorthand now. And we're going to have int ID in our constructor here, and we're going to go ID equals ID. Perfect. And I'm actually, for ease of coding, going to remove our strength. It won't help us with our code at the moment. We'll just have ID and name. So that's our new class. Let's go and use it here. We need to update our list to be a list of type cheese rather than a list of type string. So we just pop cheese in there. You can see that's made this line error because we need to do new cheese and wrap this, and our constructor is looking for ID then name, so we need to do that. Let's go 1, and then we'll just repeat that for the other values. So now we have our new cheese list with all its new cheeses added. Don't be afraid to put things on new lines if it makes it more readable. So we could even go and do this. And then remember, you can right click on your code and format it. It didn't format that very well, did it? Let's do that. There we go, that's much tidier, much more readable. Always try and make your code really nice and readable. So now we've created a collection of cheeses. We need to go and update our methods to match. So rather than returning a list of type string, this is going to return a list of type cheese. And down here, this needs to add a new cheese rather than that. So you can see, doesn't matter what you're using, you can use the same methods, but we have to go and refactor in here. So if we are going to make a new cheese here and change this variable to something more meaningful, new cheese name, I'm just going to put that as a string to remind you that that's what we're getting from our console. And then we're going to go var new cheese is equal to new cheese, and we're going to give it an int. Now we don't know what that int should be, and it needs to be unique. So let's get our cheese service count. We've used that here. Maybe we should make a method that gives us the count. Let's do that. So we've got get cheeses. We can have a public int get cheese count, and we can return our count. So now again, we've tidied it all up, and we can go and replace this long bit of code here with our count method. And again, we can use this to get the count of cheeses and then make a new ID. So I'm going to go and just do it on a new line so it's visible. You could do it all in one line, but you don't have to. Int new cheese ID is equal to the count plus 1. Okay, and that's what we're going to use. So we go and get however many there are, and we know that we named them 1 through 4. We started at 1. That's different from the indexer. Indexer is still 0. You could start your IDs at 101. It's entirely up to you. So I started it at 1. So I'm going to put that new cheese ID in and our new cheese name. And now we've made a new cheese and we can pass that in. You can see we need to create the same type of object to pass it in. Now back to dictionaries. I want to create a dictionary of all of my cheeses, and then I can select one by its ID. Say we don't really need it, but I want to show you dictionaries because they're cool and useful. All right, so we're going to have a public dictionary. So we use a new keyword. Again, this is generic. You can see that IntelliSense is giving us angle brackets. So we're going to put that in. And what's this going to be? Well, we want to have a value and a key. we're going to use a key, which will be the ID of our cheese, and the value is going to be our cheese object. So this is called a key value pair. You'll hear that a lot. So let's go and create that. Our key, which is our ID, is going to be an int, and then our value is going to be of type cheese. Get dictionary of cheeses and open close parentheses. All right, so now we've got this dictionary. We need to new it up. So I'm going to copy this line because we need to have a new dictionary that's that type. We're going to go var dictionary is equal to a new dictionary of cheese. And then down here, to make our code happy, we're going to return that dictionary. All right, so how are we going to add our list to our dictionary and create it? Well, we're going to use a for each loop. We used that before, and we're going to add each value to our dictionary. Now remember, for each loop is the keyword for each, open close parentheses, and then curly brackets. And we're going to iterate over our list of cheeses. So we'll go var cheese in cheese list. So we're going to take each cheese out of our list, and then we're going to do something. And we're going to say that the dictionary, we're going to set the index or the key of this value to be the cheese.id, and then we're going to set that equal to the value of cheese. So we've got our key, which is our ID, and that's an int, and then the value is cheese, which is of type cheese, and that's one of these cheeses in our list. And that's it. We've now created a dictionary. How can we use a dictionary? Well, let's go and have a look in our program file. So rather than typing in a whole name, I'm actually going to get the user to select a number. I'm going to change print list to be a for each loop because it's going to make this a little bit easier. So we're going to go for each, and then we're going to get all of this middle bit out, cheese in cheese list. And then in here, rather than this, we're going to print the ID and then the cheese name. So if we go and do an interpolated string, we're going to say ID, and we're going to put cheese.id, and then name, and then we're going to put cheese.name. Right, so now we've got that list, we're going to show an ID, and we're going to ask our user to select cheese by ID. Okay, from this list, please enter its ID. Okay, let me just make better English of that. All right, so we've got that. And what we're going to get back here is an ID. So let's change that. Now you can see that this is going to be a string. Let me just update that so you're aware. And then, so we're going to change this to string.favoriteCheeseID. So it's a number, an int, but it's a string. So we're going to fix that. Okay. You can see this is erroring because we've changed the name, but that's okay. And we're going to use an helper method. And this is called a try pass. And you'll use this type of thing a lot. This one we're going to do is from ints, and this is going to go and see if we can make an integer out of a string. And how do we do that? Well, we are going to get a bool. I'm going to call this is int is equal to int.tryPass. And then here we're going to pass in our favorite cheese ID. And if this works, this is int will be true. If it can't pass it as an ID, say it's the the number 12 spelled out, TWELVE, rather than 1, 2, this will be false. But if it does, it's going to give us an integer out. So we can go out int cheese ID. All right, so I know that's a little bit weird, but hopefully once you've used it, it will make sense. All right, so let's go. If is int. Now we can do that because this will immediately look for it being true. So that's all you need to do. If is int, we're going to try and get that out of our dictionary. So let's go var dictionary is equal to cheese service dot get dictionary of cheese. Now that's going to return our dictionary, and now we can get our value via its key, which is the ID, and return the favorite cheese. Okay, so let's have a go. We're expecting to get a cheese out of this, so we're going to type cheese. I'm going to call this favorite cheese is equal to dictionary, and then we use square brackets, and we're going to pass it our cheese ID. Okay, you can see that's happy. It's going to return that to us. Now this isn't happy because we added this inside. So let's go and take this out. Now this is scoping. We've spoken about scoping before. So we need to take our favorite cheese out and declare it outside of this if loop, and then assign it inside the loop. This is still unhappy. So we need to create a new cheese just so this is happy. And you can see this is unhappy because this is a default constructor. If we go into our cheese, we can fix that by adding a new constructor. You can have as many constructors as you want, as long as their signature, this bit here, is different for each one. So this is now happy because we have our default. That means it accepts no parameters. And then we have our int ID string name one. Okay, so if we go back to our program, see this is now happy because it knows what to do with this default constructor. And down here, we're going to go favorite cheese dot name because we've got that cheese out. All right, so I know that was a bit long-winded, and you probably wouldn't do that very often because we didn't really need a dictionary in this case, but I wanted to show you what it looked like. So let's run it. Okay, so we're going to choose a cheese. We're going to put the ID in. And you can see it's gone into our dictionary, found our cheese, and printed it out. Now, our code doesn't have any error handling. If someone typed in the name of the cheese rather than the ID, it would all fail. It would just print an empty thing. It wouldn't give us a cheese back. So this is what we would call a happy path, the user doing exactly what we tell them. But that doesn't matter for the purposes of our demo. So we can see how we have used a dictionary here to get some values out, questionably in our situation. But you may be asking, why would I use a dictionary rather than a list? Well, a dictionary is faster than a list. If you want to get a value out of a list, you have to go through, iterate, find the one that you want. If you use a dictionary, you're giving it a key. You're saying, I want item number 6, and it goes, okay, here's item number 6. So it's very quick in that respect, but it holds all of that information. So again, choose the right collection for the job that you're doing. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video where we've learned about lists and collections and a little bit more about arrays and the differences between those three. There are more collections out there. There's queues and other stuff, but don't worry about that. These are the main ones that you are going to use to begin with. And don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.